Thanks very much, Betty. I am joined by Congressman Brady. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Welcome here to Bloomberg.
Thanks, Peter.
Let me ask you about the current fight, and that is this payroll tax issue. You voted for the Republican plan put on the floor last night by House Speaker Boehner. How does this end? Because Senate Democrats say absolutely not. This thing is not going to pass the Senate.
You know, the Senate's struggling to get anything passed, and the real question is, what can they pass? How can Harry Reid get 60 votes with Republican support? And I think at the end of the day, what the House passed, which I think is focused as much as on jobs and returning some common sense to the unemployment approach, is that at the end of the day, I think the Republicans in the Senate will hold tight for the House Republican plan.
At the end of the day, does this get done? Because, generally speaking, there's support both on the Republican side and the Democratic side for extending this payroll tax cut. I know you've had some questions about it, but there are economists who say, listen, this is critical to a very weak economy right now.
Well, I'm not as big a fan of the payroll tax cuts or any, frankly, temporary cuts do not have the economic bang for the buck. And the payroll tax cut, just like the other rebates, has had a marginal impact at best. But nonetheless, on the House side, the writers did a great job offsetting those costs, putting in place some job-creating programs like insisting the president make a decision on the Keystone pipeline. I think at the end of the day, it does get done. I'm hopeful sooner rather than later, but we may well be here this weekend.
Maybe here this weekend. And are you going to have to give up on the Keystone pipeline? The president's already issued this veto threat. It's clear Democrats will not support anything that includes that Keystone language.
I don't know how you turn down in this economy potential of thousands, if not tens of thousands, of real jobs in that sector across the country. I think it's short-sighted for the president to draw the line there, especially the Obama economy is not something you can be proud of right now.
As you look at we're coming to the end of the year, it's been a bitter year in terms of budget, taxes, spending, this fight. We're heading into a presidential election year next year. And pardon me while I turn off this telephone. My apologies. Can anything get done next year on these big issues like taxes and spending, given that we've got such partisanship on the Hill and we've got a president running for re-election?
Well, it's going to be difficult. I know in the House we've sent out, I think, $11 trillion of spending cuts. All but 2 have been stopped in the Senate. We have 27 job creation bills over in the Senate. I don't know if they're going to pick them up. So, we would like to see real actions, real solutions. But in this presidential year, if it's even tougher than the year we've just had, we may not see the results we'd like.
What's your response to Democrats, the president among them, who are traveling around the country saying, look, the polls suggest more Americans are with us on these taxes and spending issues, that higher income Americans should be paying that much more. Is this a political victory, a political argument that Republicans can win next year?
I think the president's been effective on the campaign trail in those areas. But when you talk, at least in our district, our 11 counties, when you make the case that those he wants to tax, those in the pro-growth tax brackets, are the ones that are job creators and have an outsized impact on our economy. These are the spenders in our economy. So does it make sense to take their money out of the local economy and send it to Washington? We win that argument. So I think at the end of the day, we prevail in this.
Now, I want to ask you as well, the Federal Reserve. This is another area of interest for you on the Joint Economic Committee. You've been among the Republicans pushing for the Fed to push a single mandate, not the dual mandate anymore. They met yesterday, of course. The legislation you plan to introduce next year, do you think there's support in the Congress to change that mandate?
I do. There's a real question now. What is the role of the Federal Reserve? What role does Congress want it to play? I think they're trying to do too much. And the real solution to our economy is not on the monetary side. It's on the fiscal side. It is getting our financial house in order. It's really having a pro-growth tax code. It's dealing with balanced regulation rather than what we're seeing today. And so, yeah, I think there is growing support for a mandate focused on price, on inflation, because at the end of the day, that's what the Fed can only do.
All right, Congressman Brady, appreciate it.
Thanks,
Short
Peter.
on time. Betty, you're going to send it back to you in New York.
Peter, thank you. Still ahead and in the loop, investors continue